This is the start of Ron's postcard-style photo memory album of their 15-day Viking Homelands cruise on the 930-passenger Viking Star. They flew Lufthansa's premium economy class, which was comfortable for such a long flight. In Oslo, Loretta was freaking out about having to retrieve their bags, then go through customs, and finally take them upstairs to stand in line to check their bags and at the SAS regular counter for their flight to Bergen. They arrived at the ship safely with no problems. Ron enjoyed their first excursion of the cruise, because they could walk off the ship into the town. The intermittent drizzle was a disappointment, but it could have been worse, since their guide said Bergen was one of the rainiest cities in Norway. They made their way to Bryggen, meaning wharf, and its colorful facades, which are a city highlight and most emblematic of Norway. More photos show the old town's 18th-century houses at the foot of the mountain, as well as a modern part of the city across from Bryggen. Behind the colorful buildings are a maze of alleyways with shops, one with a mounted reindeer head for Loretta's photo op. They then went to the fish market, where they sold stockfish, an unsalted fish, usually cod, dried by cold air and wind, and hanging on racks as in the photo. The large carved king cod was actually in a Bryggen passageway, and is a reminder of the fish that made Bergen wealthy in the 14th century. Ron doesn't recall learning about the Hanseatic League, so he was a little confused about the history their guide was telling them. That's his confused look in the photo. The Hanseatic League was a mid-14th century European, mainly German, trading alliance established by prominent merchants in the Baltic region to protect their mutual interests. When they reached their Gdansk, Poland stop, they heard about the Hanseatic League again. They entered the Bryggen Museum, where Ron was fascinated by the Viking hieroglyphics or runes alphabet. They would send messages inscribed on pieces of wood, a mini version of our modern SMS, short message service, of today. Loretta was fascinated by the shoe display, and Ron liked the ancient chess set. They saw very little of Flam since they went from ship's tender to a bus, and the same on the return. But they enjoyed the bus ride up the mountains, with the magnificent scenery including the perfect lighting conditions to view a Mirror Lake's deep mountain reflection. At their Osterbo Mountain Lodge destination they sat down for the local waffles and coffee and even rang the bell, signaling marriage consummation, at the olden times newlywed cottage. They had some time to hike around near the lake, before heading back. On the way back they stopped in the village of Arlen to visit Vangen Church, a medieval stone church dating back to 1202 and restored in 1861 and again in 1926. It is a Lutheran church, and the first of many they saw on this cruise, which Ron appreciated since he is Lutheran. Ron enjoyed their 45-minute bus ride in the mountains, and understands why many come to this area to hike. An added attraction was going through the long mountain tunnels. Their construction brought faster access, but also wealth since they are used for power development. Much of Norway's power comes from hydropower in this area. The hydropower plants are built inside the tunnels to protect them from Mother Nature. In the 2.6-mile Burdal Tunnel they passed by the power plant entrance. When two tour buses pass each other inside, they turn off the cabin lights to maximize vision and allow the drivers to pass within inches of each other. The next, Nesbo Tunnel, 1.6 miles, is a little narrower, and they had to back up to a slightly wider area to pass another bus. Like a river cruise, they walked off the ship to begin their guided city walking tour. They started by walking to the cobblestoned Old Quarter, Gamely Stavanger, which has Europe's highest concentration of wooden buildings from the 18th to the early 20th centuries, and are well kept by their owners since they are protected by a conservancy. The weekend before they arrived the docks were covered in sand for volleyball courts used in an international volleyball tournament, thus the photo. Loretta snapped a photo of an unusual bike rack as well. Offshore oil drilling is an important industry for the local economy, so their tour ended at the Norwegian Petroleum Museum, which was very large and impressive. Loretta had her photo op in a diving helmet and with a rack of all-weather oil rig worker clothes. Aalborg was Ron's favorite city. Founded by the Vikings in the late 900s, it has now been voted Europe's happiest city. The ship docked next the Tollbodplades Plaza with its water jets, leading to a busy street of people, buses, restaurants and bikes. Their walking tour took them to Jelmerstable Street, where the old houses are very beautiful, and some doors have the year and the name of each owner. They walked to a busy shopping street where ancient artifacts were found when renovating a department store. To not stop business, they built the underground Franciscan CorelDRAW Monastery Museum, and continued the excavation. They passed through a nice neighborhood, and one door had a plaque reading, "A home without a dog is just a house." They walked to Nietorf New Square to see and hear the story of a favorite landmark, the Jensbang's stone house, built by the wealthy merchant Jensbang in 1642. It was rumored that because he was never made a town council member, the cantankerous Bang avenged himself by building a bigger building across from City Hall, yellow building in photo. He had caricatures of his political enemies and gargoyles all over the building, and then added his own face, with its tongue sticking out at the town hall. They were then treated to a Viking exhibition, with music, history, battle armor, food tidbits and a toast with Leishmark apple mead, Snoremark Blemjode, a modern reinterpretation of the Nordic mead.
You have a very Viking toast now, and give these fine people lust and love for new waters. So hey you all, and remember to give the last drop for the family of Njord, so they will keep you. Hail! Hail!
They visited Vorfru Church of Our Lady, a Lutheran church. As with many churches in a port city, a model of a sailing ship hangs in an area of prominence. Ron was amazed to see a small kids' play area near the pulpit and a fellowship area in the back. They took photos of the post office with a close-up of the now bricked-up pigeonholes. Up until 15 years ago they still used carrier pigeons to deliver mail. When they visited the Monastery of the Holy Ghost, the guide remarked at the memory convenience of having dates marked on the monastery building. They were a little disappointed in Copenhagen, perhaps because a subway is being built in the center of town, and there was a lot of construction. They started the day with the mandatory selfie at the Little Mermaid statue. The statue was commissioned by the founder of Carlsberg Beer, after seeing a ballet based on the story. He asked the ballerina to pose nude for it, but she declined. So the statue has her face, but the body of the wife of the founder of Carlsberg. Next stop was the Gefjon Fountain, for Loretta's photo at the largest monument in Copenhagen. They were impressed by the Amalienborg Palace, the winter home of the royal Danish family. It features 4 palaces arranged around an octagonal courtyard. Their last stop was the city center and Strædet, one of Europe's longest pedestrian streets with a wealth of shops, from budget-friendly chains to some of the world's most expensive brands. They were given time to explore and meet on Strædet Samager Square, which is dominated by the Stork Fountain. While waiting, Ron enjoyed listening to the jazz festival music adjacent to the square. They docked at the port of Warnemund, to take a private Viking leased train 2 hours to Berlin. They were one of the last to board, so they had a compartment to themselves to enjoy the scenic countryside of the Mecklenburg region. On their return it was raining, so the crew made an umbrella-covered walk and sang as they reboarded. In Berlin, Ron was amazed that they went to East Berlin to spend their day. There is no distinction today, but Ron recalls when he was there in 1971, crossing at Checkpoint Charlie was tense and East Berlin was not modern and still had bombed-out buildings. Their drop-off/pickup place was Gendarmen marked at the pictured German cathedral, Deutscher Dom. They were on their own, so they started with lunch across the street at Augustiner am Gendarmen Markt, a Bavarian-style beer hall, with dark wood-paneled ceiling and walls, serving South German cuisine. Loretta loves her apple strudel. After lunch they walked to Checkpoint Charlie for their photo op, then to the Berlin Wall. A small Berlin Wall section has been preserved with a walk-along photo memorial adjacent to it. Ron took a photo of the Berlin and the People's Community display, since when reading it, he found it had some goals Herr Trump used to win his party's nomination. Also adjacent to the wall is the old Gestapo and SS headquarters. Now a topography des terrors, their guide on the bus in, said it was a meeting place to understand how the intelligent German people could follow Hitler. Lastly, on the bus ride in, they were dropped off to take a picture of the Brandenburg Gate. Ron was there in 1971, so he stayed on the bus, as did about 1/3 of the bus. It was very crowded outside with people, buses and cars, so the bus driver had to drive around and around, slowly. Ron got very nervous, because Loretta was out, on her own, in a foreign German-speaking country, and very directionally challenged. The guide was there but didn't hold up anything to act as a homing beacon. And Ron had the "in case of emergency" Viking German help sheet in his pocket. Loretta did make it to the bus, and Ron endured her, if looks could kill, stare. They docked in the port of Gdynia and took a bus to Gdansk. Their first stop was Olowa Cathedral, a Catholic church with an 18th century organ, one of the world's largest. As they passed Gdansk Solidarity Square, Ron realized they were in the home of Solidarity, the Polish trade union. The monument crosses are linked by anchors symbolizing hope and being a reference to the worker protests of 1956, 1970 and 1980. They also passed Lech Wales's house. He was the electrician who ran the Solidarity labor movement in Poland, leading to its freedom from communism, and was later elected the nation's president. They arrived at the old town of Gdansk and had their photo taken with the crane in the distance. The crane is one of the defining symbols of Gdansk and represents what little is left of the city's great trading age. At one time this was the biggest working crane in the world. 2 huge wooden wheels were originally powered by men walking inside of them to turn the lifting mechanism. They thought the solar-powered boat was cool. Behind the buildings facing the water are 2 pedestrian streets. The main one is Długi Targ, the Long Market, lined with shops and restaurants, which runs between 2 gates. In Ron's photo, Golden Gate is in the distance. Loretta is midpoint on Długi Targ at the Neptune Fountain. During World War II, this symbol of Gdansk was dismantled and hidden with many of the city's other treasures. The top right 2 photos are of the Green Gate, their tour rendezvous spot. Loretta loves signage photos, thus delicatessen. Next to that photo is Mariacka Street, the most famous in Gdansk because of its age and expensive shops, many selling Gdansk's famous amber jewelry. The street leads to St. Mary's Church, which can hold up to 25,000 people and took 159 years to build. The little miniature at its front was great for discussion, and the story of a folklore giant using the flat bell tower to sit on was cute. When inside the Golden Gate, Loretta took a photo of the picture of St. Mary's after the war. Staterooms are spacious, with king-size beds, and Scandinavian-style design features. The smallest, at 270 square feet, is larger than the industry average of 185 square feet, and makes the most of multifunctional furniture, such as a table that doubles as an ottoman, a desk with a built-in lighted vanity and mini-bar. They had the penthouse veranda, the medium-size Viking Star stateroom, at 338 square feet. Their room had daily restocking of the included scotch, vodka, gin and rum. Ron doesn't normally drink hard liquor, but the mini-bar tonic water and save breakfast OJ induced me to try it for a few days. But with included Stella draft beer at lunch and included red wine at dinner, Ron maxed out rather quickly. The generous space allotment extends to the cabin restroom, which benefits from the same clean Scandinavian design. The sink vanity has storage to accommodate the personal toiletries of 2 people, without having to fight for space, and the shower is fully enclosed glass. Here they are at the restaurant enjoying table service with a river cruise-style menu of specialties on the left and always available on the right. The weather was nice enough one evening to have the floor-to-ceiling windows slide open for an alfresco ambience. Above right, the World Cafe buffet service with its unique open kitchen grill, sushi bar, and ice creams. Some mornings they enjoyed the free 24-hour room service. Top left is Mamsen's Norwegian deli they almost missed, but found when Ron wanted herring and smørbrød, a Scandinavian open sandwich. Once at midnight they enjoyed Mamsen's split pea soup. One of two reservations-only restaurants was Manfredi's Italian restaurant they enjoyed twice. The other reservations-only restaurant was Chef's Table, a dining experience meant to be savored and enjoyed, with each dinner offering a 5-course small plate and wine pairing. They enjoyed the Asian Panorama menu and the Sweet and Salty menu on their 2 visits. Afternoon tea in the Winter Garden was a special treat, with its large selection of tea leaves, scones, small cakes and sandwiches. The live music added to the highbrow experience, but after a few days of high tea they switched to just having tea and enjoying the ambience. At the top right are some places Ron went to relax and read. The infinity pool was on Ron's bucket list, but the few days of swimming weather and Loretta's fear of an all 8-foot deep pool made it a low priority. They did enjoy lounging by the main pool, looking out to sea, and watching the movie Everest one night on the large screen next to the pool. The 3-story atrium with its large LCD screen, daily changing of awesome images, is not something Ron will forget. The spa is a no-charge amenity. The common area of the spa has a large warm hydrojet saltwater pool, that's Ron waving, a hot jacuzzi, a steam room, Ron entering, 6 heated stone benches, a snow room, Ron exiting, a cold water bucket shower, Ron again, and a rinsing shower. There are also 5 comfortable lounge chairs on each side of the warm pool. Well, Ron did the snow grotto a few times. The first time he sat on a snow bench in his wet bathing suit, he got stuck, so the next time Ron brought a towel to sit on. The private men's and women's changing room have a sauna and cold plunge pool. Ron loves saunas, so he went back just to enjoy that. Ron tried the cold plunge pool, but just above his knee, it was cold. There are robes and rubber slippers in the lockers, which added to this high-class experience. They spent at least an hour every night in Torshavn, photo lower right, dancing and listening to the band. The band had an unbelievable repertoire, from Hernando's Hideaway, a tango, to Uptown Funk. They gave the band their bottle of champagne, included with their room, on their last night with them. Loretta played shuffleboard for the first time, and they enjoy putting around. The Star Theater showed off the new ship's use of the latest technology. 6 singers and 2 dancers entertained us, but the 3D LCD screen made it look like there were 6 more on stage. They did an ABBA, a Swedish group, review, and Robin North, a star of Phantom of the Opera and also Broadway musicals, flew in to do 2 solo performances. Ron loved her Julie Andrews pieces the most. The performers put on a show in the pool area, with a number of them dancing to the music. The singers also did 2 small nightclub-style shows in Torshavn, which they loved. In the atrium there were scheduled classical music performances, and a few impromptu dance displays by the 2 ship's dancers. They took a cha-cha lesson from them in the Explorers Lounge. Ron's photo op with Off-Air Maiden at the Old Hansa Shop, and Loretta's photo op with Ha Ha Ha. Top right is Rakoya Platz, Tallinn's main square. The steeple building is the town hall. They enjoyed a gentle stroll along cobblestone lanes, but the large cobblestones were hard to walk on, so Ron tried to use the tiny sidewalks where he could. Loretta's excellent panorama photo captures the lovely Tallinn vantage point that overlooks a magnificent canvas of red rooftops, slender steeples and the sea. And when Ron saw a statue of Martin Luther, he asked Loretta to take a photo. It was with the statue of St. Canute at the Canute Guild Hall, a workers' guild formed in the 14th century, which has become a center of modern dance and other performance arts. Ron has no clue why Martin Luther was honored by the guild. When they were ready to leave port, the Viking Star was on the windward side. The wind was very strong, so the small tugboats could not move their ship and they had to wait for larger tugs. Their cabin was on the windward side, and Ron opened their balcony door for some fresh air and relaxed inside. Loretta wanted to go see their steward, and when she opened the hallway door, an unbelievable wind draft carried papers, hats, books and a surprised Loretta out into the hallway, slamming the door shut. On the top right was their tour stop at a medieval specialty shop, where they were given a box of candied almonds before they looked around the shop. Loretta loved the shoes. The shop was attached to the old handsome medieval restaurant that looked super amazing. The next photos are of Maya Smoke Cafe, the oldest 1864 cafe anywhere in Tallinn and indeed Estonia. On the town square, baths are caught their attention since it was billed as a garlic restaurant. Finally, McDonald's, at which they knew of the coffee section with baristas and high-end pastries. But this one had the kiosk self-ordering system which Ron Reed will be in the States soon. The strong Baltic Sea winds in Tallinn were also in St. Petersburg, preventing them from entering the port. St. Petersburg used to often flood, so they built a large breaker chain and a single lock-style gate entry which was closed. They were scheduled to dock at 6 a.m. but didn't dock until 6 p.m. This meant cancellation or reshuffling of tours for their 2 days in Russia. They did make their Russia's native songs and dances excursion, which they enjoyed very much, but they were not allowed to photograph. They did take photos on their way to the performance. Top left is the view from their balcony of the very security-conscious port. They could see the construction of Krestovsky Stadium being readied for the 2018 FIFA World Cup. Top right are the plain communist-style high-rise housings they drove by as they left the port. Lower right, they crossed the Neva River lined with colorful summer home palaces of the Tsars. The major stop for their scenic bus tour was the Peter and Paul Fortress, lower right. The fortress is the original citadel of St. Petersburg, Russia, founded by Peter the Great in 1703. Once they entered the fortress, their first stop was the WC, one bus for women and one for men. The left photo is their guide handing out 2 rubles to use the facilities. The next photos are the water entry gate to the fortress armaments. A cannon is fired at noon every day, and drawn in front of the gold-hued Peter and Paul Cathedral and its soaring spire. Inside the cathedral, gold leaf abounds, but the columns are simulated marble. Rather than a cathedral, it should be called a mausoleum, since a little over half of the floor is covered with tombs of the Tsars and Tsarinas. Also buried here is Catherine the Great, Empress of Russia for 34 years. Top right, tomb of Peter the Great, Peter I. Below left, tombstones of Tsar Nicholas II and his family in St. Catherine's Chapel. Below right, tombs made of semi-precious stones of Alexander II and his wife. The St. Petersburg Mint is inside the fortress, and there is Loretta trying to avoid the rain and Ron enjoying their bus ride through the streets of St. Petersburg. Next to Ron's photo is the Church of Our Savior on Spilled Blood, completed in 1907. This stunning, it truly is. Church contains more than 7,500 square meters of mosaics. Their day was rain-soaked, which delayed them, so the lower left drive-by photo is of Senate Square and the Bronze Horseman. Early in the day they did stop to photograph the rostral columns, top left, originally intended to serve as beacons and were topped by a light, but are now only ceremonial. The columns have 4 pairs of bronze ship prows, rostra, and marble figures represent the major rivers of Russia, the Volga, Dnieper, Neva and Volkhov. Their last drive-by photos, top right, were the monument to Nicholas I and of St. Isaac's Cathedral, but Ron included a photo of what the spot would look like if the weather were better and they had gotten off of the bus. They were told it rains or snows much more than it sunshines in St. Petersburg. Loretta at the Sibelius Monument, dedicated to the Finnish composer Jean Sibelius, 1865–1957, bottom right. Loretta at Helsinki Cathedral, or the Finnish Evangelical Lutheran Cathedral of Helsinki, left bottom. Then her panorama photo of the cathedral and the Senate Square. Top right, the Tempilaakio Kirkko Rock Church, a Lutheran church, which is a thrilling work of modern architecture. Completed in 1969, it is built entirely underground and has a ceiling made of copper wire. The Market Square is a central square in Helsinki, and one of the most famous marketplaces and tourist attractions in the city. They bought their souvenirs for the 4 kids at the market. Vorschopflaffels, ladles, a German word they know since their Austrian mother used it to threaten punishment for naughty behavior, so the wink is extra meaningful. Stockholm was Loretta's favorite. Stockholm is spread across an archipelago of 14 islands that are linked by 54 bridges. But the archipelago extends much further with over 20,000 islands of meaningless size to islands with summer homes. They sailed through this gorgeous area and it felt like a river cruise, top right. When they returned from breakfast, Ron went on their balcony to find they were being watched by busloads of tourists. Actually, their ship blocked the view of a well-known photo spot, which as the top left photo shows, their city tour stopped there as well. What a waste. But on the ship they had the unobstructed view for their selfie and panorama. The center photo is the Nobel Museum, where research and decisions are made for the Nobel Prizes, all except the Peace Prize, which is decided in Norway, their guide said, in case they had complaints. Loretta had a photo op with the Royal Guard at the Royal Palace, the official residence and major royal palace of the Swedish monarch. Top right, as they drove to Gamla stan, Stockholm's old town, to see the changing of the Royal Guard, they were stuck behind the guard marching to the Royal Palace. 2 other photos show the Royal Palace and people waiting for the guard change, which they never saw. Next to that photo is one of Stortorget public square near the palace, and whose multicolor buildings appear in Stockholm travel brochures. On the left is Stockholm's City Hall, Stitches, and in 1971 Ron took a photo of it and tried to duplicate it on this trip. He was pretty close. Loretta took one of her great panorama shots as well. The City Hall is one of Sweden's most famous buildings, with its spire featuring the golden 3 crowns, an old national symbol for Sweden. But in times past it symbolized a union between Denmark, Norway and Sweden. The long flight home. They had booked premium economy with seat selection for their flights. But on their return flight Lufthansa changed their seats to 2 middle seats. Loretta's asthma is getting worse and she needs an aisle seat. So she pleaded with the gate agent. And they got a free upgrade to business class. When they sat down in their seats they looked at each other and said, "Darn, it is only a 9.5-hour flight. Pure heaven in the clouds." They enjoyed the tablecloth, china, silverware and great food. Ron wore the included Bose noise-cancelling headphones for 9 hours of movies and classical music. For jet lag issues, Ron didn't want to sleep, but the white wine, red wine and 2 brandies did make it a challenge.